Welcome, FCS Fans Nation members. This is a brand new show. This is going to be One-Double A Parlays, a member of the Fans Nation Network, and I'm going to be your host for this one, Colby Peterson. We're going to be a show that talks a little bit about some of the betting lines across the FCS this morning, bright and early here on a Saturday. And so joining me, a couple of experienced veterans in the game. We're going to talk to Montana Parlay and Hot Take Nate from the Montana Mint Parlay. Nate, how you guys doing this morning?
Good. I'm still licking my wounds a little bit from Brookings, but
Awesome. Yeah, and I'm here. I'm here in beautiful Bozeman. It's going to be an amazing day for a game against Stetson. So here doing this before we head over to the stadium. But it's going to be a fantastic day here in Bozeman for some football.
As wonderful, Stetson.
Yeah. Yes.
I think I said in the FCS Fans Nation Facebook group, which you should join if you're not already in there. It's a great place to be. Somebody said something about the game, and I said, this week's Bobcat Massacre.
Yes.
I hope for the Hatters, fellas, especially after what we saw last week, like you said, Parlay, in Brookings with the Bobcats against number one Jackrabbits, South Dakota State. Like, that was one for the centuries, man. That was a great game. Unfortunately, like you guys said, didn't come down the Bobcats' way, but maybe a preview of what we're going to see in Frisco later this year. So, guys, let's talk a little bit about today's show. So, rundown, what we'll be doing, we'll be giving everybody a chance, an opportunity to talk about some of the picks that they've seen that they think are interesting. So, we'll start with Parlay's picks. We'll go on to Nate's picks. We'll talk a little bit about each. And then if we have a little bit of time, I've got a couple that I'll talk about. But before we get into all that, I want to encourage you all, please subscribe to the Fans Nation YouTube channel. There are a lot of different shows that go on that channel, including this one, of course. And so check it out. Lots of good FCS content over there. And then I think that also there will be some hoops content in the future once football season's done. But we don't want to talk about football season done because it just started. You can also follow those guys on Facebook, like we said earlier. Join them on their Facebook group, the FCS Fans Nation Facebook group. Great place to be if you're an FCS fan. And then, of course, Twitter. Twitter's a great place for sports. What do we call it? X? Did I make a mistake there? Whatever. It's X. It's Twitter. You know what I'm talking about. Go follow them there. It's a great place for sports. All right, guys, let's start with you, man. I mean, a lot of games this week. This is sort of FBS/FCS week 2.0, a lot of those games. But what's looking interesting to you across the nation so far from what you've seen this morning?
Yeah, so, first of all, we're coming here first to market with some of these lines because if you've been paying attention in a legal gambling state, they are not releasing lines until about 2, maybe 3 hours before kickoff.
Yep.
State of Montana has the Grizz and Bobcat lines out 2 or 3 days early. Otherwise, they're also releasing FCS versus FCS lines only about 2 to 3 hours before kickoff. We're going to be coming at you with some lines here that start in more than 4 hours from now, and we have our ways, ladies and gentlemen, to find these lines. So listen up, take some notes. But what you can bet on in states like Illinois, Iowa, Montana, Colorado, are the FCS, FBS lines. And one that just hit me this morning doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I'm almost nervous they're going to start their fourth stringers, is Wazoo, Washington State, at home against the worst Big Sky team in the conference, Northern Colorado. Yeah. The line is 45 and a half some places. Washington State could be up by 50 in the first half. Okay. So, I want to proceed with caution. So that's a 1.5 unit play for me. I wish sober me would have talked to myself in Brookings about a certain over-unders and bankroll management, but whatever. Hindsight's 2020. I also like over 53.5. Sportsbet Montana has that listed now on the Washington State Northern Colorado game. Washington State should hit that by themselves. I've seen it as low as 52.5 on some books. So again, Washington State minus 45 and the over in that game. Bet right now before the lines move. That's number one. I looked at this Boise UND game. UND smashed 2 absolute cream puffs at home. Now they travel to the Smurf turf, that ugly, godforsaken field trend that Eastern and all the UCA and all these other teams have followed. It's open at 12.5, and I would have loved to bet it then, but now it's 14.5, 15. I still would lean Boise. That's a half unit play. UND, I don't know if they have the offense to keep up with Boise on the Smurf turf. Early kickoff there. Southern Idaho, I guess, is Rocky Mountain time, but maybe a slight advantage to North Dakota coming from the Central with a 11 a.m.
Oh no.
I think they shut him off for saying Rocky Mountain time instead of just Mountain time. So I don't know anybody who says Rocky Mountain time.
They're punishing him. Parlay, we got you back, man. 14.5, like you said. A little bit of a time difference there between Boise and Grand Forks. Maybe a difference in the game.
Yeah. So, yeah, I missed all that. I think I kind of went out for a bit, but
You did.
All good.
let's see. South Dakota State, they are playing in Minneapolis at Target Field, I believe. The Twins home stadium, who are on the road against the lowly White Sox, by the way. But
Yeah, they've been bad
South
this year.
Dakota State, 45.5. Again, that's another spread that could be covered in the first half. It all depends on their game plan. But I look at after they played pretty rusty and poorly against Montana State, especially in the first half, they're going to come out looking to get Gronowski throwing. They're going to have a defensive goal to shut out Drake, which shouldn't be that hard. So I like SDSU minus 45.5. And finally, before I move on to my favorite prop bet of the day, I'm keeping an eye on this Eastern Washington, and maybe colored turfs, I guess, are a theme with me today.
It's a theme for this segment, yeah.
Eastern at home versus Southeast Louisiana should be a great game.
Yep.
Should be a shootout.
Shootout. Yeah, I think so.
Anytime these two teams are playing another high-scoring team, especially each other, if the total is less than 60, you grab the over. Okay. I'm not aware of any tornadoes or hurricanes or downpours in Cheney, whatever you want to call it. Over 59.5. Let's bet that. That rounds, I think, 5 plays for now. And those are all straight up. If you want to parlay them, proceed with caution. That's how I lose most of my money throughout the year. So
That's true, man. I lost a fair bit last week. You talked about Boise State. Probably not going to take that. I'm still a little salty about them not covering against Washington and screwing up that parlay for me. So like you said, if you're going to parlay, proceed with caution because you can get one done, but sometimes you can't get more than that. And there goes your money.
And should I talk about my prop bet now, or should we save that for round out the show?
Well, I was going to let's give you a chance. And I wanted to give Nate an opportunity to weigh in on some of these, see how he's feeling, but go ahead, go with the prop bet right now.
Okay. So my favorite prop, I don't know if it's on the board, but it's Stetson's point scores, the Hatters, against Hot Take Nate. Coors Light's drank at the game today. I hope I can go with Nate today. Nate, how are you feeling?
Feeling good. I took it easy last night.
Really?
Went downtown for only one drink, and then had dinner at home actually here at the house.
Wow.
So feeling good today, feeling rested. I think my watch said my body battery's at like 95. Like I am primed
All right.
for
Right.
a 1 o'clock kickoff. That's just the scouting report.
I think we got minus 150 on Nate right now, and more money's pouring in. So get it now before that spread moves.
And we haven't actually talked about this previous. This is the first time I'm seeing this prop bet, so I'm actually going to go hard on this one.
My man. All right. Well, Nate, I want to give you a chance to kind of talk a little bit about what Parlay is laid out here, because I think there's some good bets here. Like you said earlier, Parlay, Wazoo at minus 45 against Northern Colorado. Northern Colorado is probably the worst team in the Big Sky. And there are worse teams in the country, but man, they look bad there in that first year of that Ed Lamb rebuild. And it's going to take a while. So how are you feeling about some of these lines?
I think, I mean, this week, if you look at the board, like it's just a week of massive lines, and you just have to wonder what the coaches are going to do when they get up big. So, like, Wazoo, they could be up 50 at half. Like, what do they do in the second half? Do they get some of their, redshirt quarterbacks some minutes? And they're going to try and score, though. That's the thing, is the kids are going to come in, the second, third, fourth stringers that are going to get some PT this week. They're going to want to show the skills that they have. And so it's that balance of trying to figure out, are they going to call off the dogs? Or are they going to keep trying to score? So I think this week is just that week of big lines and seeing which coaches take the strategies of getting the guys reps and wanting to see their full repertoire, or those that are going to just start, pounding the rock and running that clock.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably one of the biggest things that makes those big lines scary, is that in a situation like what you said, Parlay, where it's like, we know that Wazoo, who just beat Wisconsin last week, was that what it was?
They did.
That also cost me a parlay, by the way. Freaking Wisconsin. But like, it's clear that Wazoo is a team that could absolutely achieve the number that is out there, right? It's just a matter of how much are the coaches willing to run the score up. And when you get a big number like 45, I don't have any faith in the Northern Colorado offense to get very much done against Wazoo, who held Wisconsin to under 30, wasn't it? But yeah, man, like I get nervous when the number is that big. Well, what else you got, man? What else are some of your takes on Parlay's numbers here?
Well, I actually had that the Boise State North Dakota game on my card for today. I am going to take Boise State minus 14.5. I feel pretty good about that one, actually. Boise State's played Washington and UCF. They got rolled by both of them. Yep. Well, they didn't get rolled by UCF, but played two Power 5 teams. And now they're getting a team in North Dakota who has played Drake and NAU. So North Dakota, soft. I mean, they played hella soft schedule. Yeah. So I think the biggest, North Dakota's offenses look great, but everybody's offense is going to look great against North Dakota, or against Drake and NAU. They're going to have to play, some FBS linemen in this game. Their running game is not going to be the same. Their offensive line is going to have to protect way different. So I'm going to take that Boise State minus 14.5. I think that coach, a little bit on the hot seat, starting 0-2 this year, didn't have a great season last year, lost Hank Bachmeier to the transfer portal. I just think that Boise State needs to come out and make a statement against such an supposed to be inferior opponent. Coach goes on the hot seat if they don't win this game. I think that they're going to win it handily. So I am taking that 14.5 Boise State over North Dakota.
Yeah, I don't blame you on that line, man, because you're right. I think this is year 3 of this coach. I think he got hired the same year you guys hired Vegan, right? I think that all happened the same summer. And so you're right. I think that there is some need. All right. I thought you were going to say something. But I think he is on the hot seat. I think UND is not going to do super well against that line. And so, yeah, man. What else you got for me, Nate, from some of Parlay's picks? Or Parlay, I think you forgot one, didn't you? There was one other. Go ahead, Nate.
Going over his, or on my card, though, I have, if I'm going to the Montana side of things, and we're talking about big spreads, MSU versus Stetson, the over of 57.5. That's a lot of points, but I'm taking that one. If Stetson scores, this one hits. Montana State's going to put up 50, 55 points. If Stetson scores one touchdown, as I get a helicopter flying about 15 feet over me, it sounds like, if Stetson scores one touchdown, this one goes over. No matter who the Cats have in, they're going to score points. No matter who they have running the ball, like their whole stable of running backs, it doesn't matter if they get down to Garrett Kuhn running the ball in the fourth quarter, they're going to score points. Jordan Reed came in that first game against Utah Tech, threw some great passes, scored a touchdown. Like, no matter who the Cats have in at quarterback, I doubt Malott plays today. I don't know if it's been official or not, but Chambers, he's going to score. When Jordan Reed comes in, he's going to score. No matter what running back Montana State has, they're going to score. So I have that MSU. It's such a high number, 57.5. I think Montana State gets into the 50s. So if Stetson gets one touchdown, I don't know how it's going to happen. They're like the second worst FCS, or actually the second worst Division I team. If you look at the Sagarin ratings, 260 out of 261. Like, this team is really, 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 really bad. If they score one touchdown, this game goes over.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point because, like you said, I'm with you. I don't think Malott plays. I think they give him a week off. And, MSU was very effective last weekend on the run game. Of course, that's the strength of the team. But they were effective against a South Dakota State defense who shut them down in the semifinals last year, right? They figured it out. They found a way to score points against that defense. And so having, sort of faced their demons now, you think that Stetson's going to be a problem? I don't think so. They're going to play to their strengths. They're going to run all over them. And when you run the ball well, good things happen, right? 50 points, very easily achievable. It's just a matter of how much Vegan probably wants to run the score up.
Definitely. Yeah, and they put 60 on Utah Tech. So I mean, it's obviously in their bag to be able to put up these kind of points. Stetson's worse than Tech. The only thing I think of is just when do you call it off? When do you start resting those guys for conference? Like, just, that first game, it's gold rush, the adrenaline's going. You want to get these guys reps in live in a live game. This one, going into conference season, this one has a little different feel than like a gold rush or, first game of the year when you really are trying to make a point. And then finally I go west of the divide. The team I hate the most in the FCS, the Grizzlies. They're getting a D2 school in Ferris State. It's back-to-back D2 champions in Ferris State coming to Washington Grizzly. The line is 14.5, and never in my wildest dreams would I think that I would see a Grizz line laying less than 3 touchdowns against a D2 school. Now I get it's Ferris State. I get that it's a powerhouse coming from D2, but this game is
reigning national champions in D2, aren't they?
Reigning, I think 2-time reigning, isn't it? Two-time reigning, yeah.
So
2-time reigning.
The most legit D2 program that you can find.
The most legit D2 program, yes. But have the Grizz fallen this far that that the books are giving them this little respect? Now I'm not going to say this
scores at home at Washington.
This is not an opinion about the Grizzlies for me. That's a whole different podcast. But have the mighty fallen this far where they're only getting 14.5 against a D2 school? Now, I'm taking the Grizz minus 14.5. I think Houck's going to have them ready to play. It's going to be at Wa Grizz. It's a blackout tonight. They got the Grizz don't change uniforms very often, so when they do get these special games, I think they're going to come out. I think the crowd's going to be well lubed up after a whole day of tailgating. So I think the Grizz fans are doing a lot of reverse jinxing, saying they're worried about this game. I think they're just trying to kind of set the table for if it did end up kind of close, they could be like, yeah, I told you so. I just don't think this one's close. I think the Grizz do win by 3 touchdowns. And anytime I can get, and honestly, the Grizz laying only 14.5 to a D2 school, I'm going to take it. It's almost on principle alone.
Yeah, the offense has been anemic for them, right? They're still trying to figure that piece out, and the defense has not been as dominant. But they've also played a really soft schedule so far, so we don't really know how good this Grizz team is quite yet, right? So I'm with you. I'd probably take more than 2 scores at Wa Grizz, right? It looks good. Parlay, what would you do in this situation?
I don't know. What's the bigger reverse jinx? The Grizz fans saying, "Oh, I'm scared of Ferris," or Nate betting on the Grizz? That's the battle right there.
Yeah.
I lean Grizz too, because at the end of the day, Ferris has not seen an atmosphere like Wa Grizz. They just haven't. Yes, you can make the argument they got 2 good QBs. They've got 300-pound linemen. They've won D2. And D2, the best of the D2 is better than the bottom 20 or so FCS schools, especially the schools that U of M have played so far this year. That's all true. Michigan doesn't have an FCS school. So, if you're a kid in Michigan and you don't quite make the FBS cut, it's like, do you want to play for a team like Ferris State, or do you want to cross the border to Eastern Illinois or Indiana State? Those schools stink, and they're in kind of crappy areas. So I can see where Ferris State is they're kind of like NDSU is to FBS in the D2, if that makes sense. They get a lot of talent that should probably be, a notch above. But again, they're playing bad teams, worse than the teams U of M has played so far, in probably mid-range high school environments. Think about the games we used to go to in September in high school, Nate. Those were probably louder than the games that Ferris State plays at. So now they're going to come to Wa Grizz for a blackout game and cover 2 touchdowns. I don't know about that.
My high school team went 0-8 my freshman and sophomore year, so I have to push back on that. There was nobody in the stands.
Ooh. Got some comments coming in, guys. Sid the Kid says 29 straight road wins. Ferris has an 8-year quarterback. One of these, one of these guys who just kind of stretched it out, took that extra COVID year, took that red shirt year. I mean, how does that factor into this? 29 straight road wins. Does that bother you at all, or you still feel good about?
None of them have been in front. None of them have been in front of 23,000 fans. Like,
it's probably a good bet.
It's just that environment's going to be something tonight that you're going to have to get used to. In that first half, first quarter, whatever it may be. But 29 straight road wins is fantastic. But I just love that Grizz might only laying 14.5 at home.
Nate loves the Grizz. Cut that out.
Yeah, that's the sound.
Lowercase G.
Man, the Rev in here, Dustin Helton. I don't trust any sort of Montana parlay.
Yeah.
Play on words there. Good to see you, the Rev, in the comments. But all right, Parlay, you had one more though that you didn't mention previously. You want to throw that one out as well?
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback off of Nate's pick right there. I like the under 57.5 in that game. Is Ferris State going to score at Wa-Grizz? And can the Grizz actually get their offense going? I kind of lean no on both accounts, so I like under 57.5. Grizz are 2-0 on the under so far this year. We'll see if that trend continues.
Sort of the Iowa of the FCS. I bet Iowa first week. I was rewarded. Bet the under on Iowa, baby.
Can't go wrong with that.
It's pretty easy. But all right, guys. So a couple of really good, couple of good lines there. A couple of really good sound bites that we can use for later. Thank you to both of you for that.
That was my mistake.
Well, let's take a look at some of the things that I found interesting on the lines that we were able to find this morning. First one I wanted to talk about was Holy Cross getting to 2.5 on the road at Yale. This was interesting to me because Holy Cross had a good game the previous week. Mass Lucas still their quarterback. That guy's a gamer. Made it to the quarters last year and then played BC tough last weekend in Boston. This game is also sort of in the neighborhood. Some would say, there's a little bit of a rivalry game, but the way that Holy Cross has looked for this stuff, man, I got to think that they're going to do better than 2.5, or they'll at least get that against the Yale team that has not played a game this year. And also, it's the Ivies. I mean, what's your guys' take on the Ivies? Should I respect them more? Should I not? No. Parlay says no.
No, you don't need to respect them. And the thing that gives me hesitancy here, why I'm not putting 2 units or more on it, and I did bet Holy Cross, is Yale has not played. So
they haven't played.
So that we have nothing to go on, but also we have them probably coming out rusty. So I like Holy Cross here. My brother, I think he's Montana Gambler or something on Twitter. We've got a couple brothers who like to gamble, but he bet an alt line of Holy Cross -2.5 at +150 in Montana on Montana Sports Bet. So that, you think Holy Cross is going to win by a field goal or more, you can get +150 odds right there. I like Holy Cross. They've got a great QB, and Yale stinks. Okay.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't know what to make of Yale. I think there's going to be rust. Holy Cross has played 2 games now. They've played, they played week 0 and they've also played now, or they played week 1 and they've also played an FBS matchup that they were competitive in. I got to think that's better than what Yale's going to roll out on the field. So I'll take +2.5 Holy Cross if that's the line that comes out. The next one was sort of interesting, and this one, now I think my bets get a little bit iffy. You guys have talked about some of the other ones that I am interested in. So the next couple of bets are, you can decide how you feel about some of these. But the next one I had was Furman getting -6.5 at Kennesaw State. Kennesaw State is a team that is in transition. They're going up to the FBS, but they did not look great against a Chattanooga team that lost on the road to North Alabama earlier this season already. So it's sort of a Chat loses to North Alabama. Kennesaw State loses to Chat. Furman, I thought, would do better against South Carolina last week than they did. They didn't cover. Sad Colby. But this one kind of had me interested. I'm like, oh, maybe. But I think that the scary thing here is they've got to win by a touchdown or more. And they've got to win, right, against a team that is adding scholarships. So it's a little iffy, but the way that Kennesaw State has played lately, I might think about putting, like you're saying, parlay like half a unit on it just to see how it goes. And maybe not including it in any sort of important parlay. It's just off to the side. And then the next one, guys, this one also a little bit iffy, but I got to say, so Western Carolina, they I think shocked the FCS world last weekend by what they did to Samford. Everybody had Samford and Furman as the obvious favorites going into this season to win the SoCon. And then Western Carolina absolutely smashes them 30-7. And now all of a sudden people are questioning how good is Samford really, and Western Carolina is getting all this love. They're making the trip. They're going to East Kentucky. I don't know what to make of East Kentucky because they're sort of this like, yeah, they played one game, but they played a cupcake and they lost their FBS game. Don't know what I can make of that. But from the momentum that I saw last weekend with Western Carolina, I got to think that maybe they might be willing to do something or make some noise or keep it close with Eastern Kentucky, who, maybe just middle of the road or slightly worse FCS team, whereas Western Carolina, if they continue with the trend that I think they will, they're probably going to be ranked. So we'll just see, especially if Samford continues to fall off a cliff. The next two obvious choices for the SoCon championship and probably any sort of at-large berth out of the SoCon would be Furman and Western Carolina. I don't know, guys. How do you feel about some of those lines? Give me your thoughts.
There's a little outside. I think I don't want to speak for Nate, but SoCon and some of these divisions are a little outside of our expertise. But I have been following Furman. I used to bet Kennesaw State unders when they were really rolling with that option,
triple option,
eating up the clock. But it scares me a little bit because I was a big believer in Furman. I thought their line was the type of line that could compete with the SDSUs. They looked impressive against Incarnate Word last year before they just crapped the bed in the final few plays and then in OT. But they just went up against an SEC team
that is not great.
And now they're on the road. So and they're favored by 6.5. I might put a little bit on Furman, like you said, half unit. Otherwise, it's a stay away. Western Carolina, Eastern Kentucky, I don't know anything. All I could say is letdown city was Western Carolina. So I'd be a little weary of that game, after their huge win last week. It's a big potential letdown. Just, similar to another one I thought about betting was SIU, Southern Illinois' great defense, great QB on the road, only -5 against SEMO, who I think is not good. But they just knocked off their in-state FBS rival in Northern Illinois. So that's another potential letdown. So when you've got teams on the road with either favored or small underdogs after a potential letdown, those should be stay-away games. It should be. Doesn't mean I won't bet them.
Yeah, but I mean, your points are good, right? That like you come in, say you're Western Carolina, you're feeling yourself after a massive win over Samford, smashed them 30-7. You roll into Eastern Kentucky, who's, they're just doing stuff, and you don't play well because you're feeling yourself and you don't prepare properly, and you lose by more than 4.5. I can definitely hear you. I don't know, Nate, how are you feeling about some of these other ones?
I do have to echo parlay. When I thought Furman, I thought a paladin was a dinosaur the first time, and I got corrected.
F you all the time, man. Come on.
I got corrected by my podcast host Bear Tycoon, and then have been made fun of mercilessly by everybody else after that. So you can see my my East Coast or my West Coast bias, I guess you could say,
for sure.
When it comes to FCS football. But yeah, I'm the same way where those letdown games are so crazy, like Western Carolina getting that win. That one's a stay away from me, just to trying to see. Like last week, I bet Colorado against Nebraska, and the whole time before that game, before the start of that game, I was like, I made the stupidest bet.
No way.
Colorado.
No, that was the surest money all week, dude. Like Nebraska sucks. They were going to smash.
It was so sure,
so hyped,
and it was such a sucker line that I was like, I just made the biggest mistake by betting this. So I thought that was going to be that letdown game, and I didn't have any fun leading up to that game because I thought it was going to be the Colorado letdown game. So I can obviously be wrong on those letdown games coming up. So I would stay away from from the Western Carolina game, just from looking at that letdown perspective. And I also thought a Paladin was a dinosaur. So who's going to take any of my betting advice anyway?
Yeah, it's tough. I hear what you're saying, Parlay, as well on the SIU SEMO game. I'm actually going to go to that game later today, and it's interesting because it's only week 3, and I think that's what makes this a little bit tough. Is we have a very small sample size thus far on how teams are. Most cases, only 2 games, right? And the opponents are all weird because they're playing FBS games, they're playing D2 games, and it's just like, I don't really know. SIU looks to be the kind of team that could maybe potentially finish 3rd in the Valley this year if they continue the way that they are. But yeah, man. I mean, SEMO also a ranked team. This is a rivalry game coming off of an FBS victory of North Illinois. Like, oh man, I hear you. I probably won't bet SIU either. So yeah.
I think what's interesting there is when you look at the polls. Okay, SEMO's ahead of SIU in a lot of polls.
Yeah.
And here's SIU's on the road, and they're favored by 4.5. And most modeling in college FCS betting shows that a home game is worth at 4 to 5 points. So the books are saying SIU is about 8 to 9 points better, but they're behind in the polls. So I think it's one of the key games to keep an eye on if you're just an FCS fan.
Yeah, because I think also that SEMO getting a little bit of hangover from the previous year where they were able to make the playoffs again. Were not able to get a win. They still have just that one lone win in school history back in 2017. No, it was 2018. I think it was 18 or 19. Anyway, it's an interesting game because this is going to tell us who these 2 teams are. If SEMO gets absolutely smashed on their floor, in their arena, that's bad because it is a road game, but they're 50 miles apart. You know what I mean? So it's like a lot of SIU fans are probably traveling this one. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag, but I don't know, man. I'm with you. I probably just not bet anything in that one and just enjoy the game, which I'll be doing later today.
And I can't bet in Illinois because I'm not allowed to bet teams that are from Illinois. So, unless I can send you some money for, your state,
Great state of Tennessee has no problem taking bets for Illinois teams. I will tell you that. Guys, this has been a fun episode, I think. First of One-Double A Parlays. Really appreciate you both for being willing to do this. We'll do this every Saturday morning as much as we can and just talk about the way that things are looking. Obviously, as Parlay noted at the top, things could change. I mean, these are just preliminary numbers and the way the lines work in the FCS, many of them coming out a couple of hours before game time. These are just ballpark numbers for us. You're going to have to nibble around the edges. You're going to have to eyeball things and see how you feel when the actual number drops from some of the sports books. But based on the info we could get, this is what we decided to go with. Any parting thoughts, guys, before we wrap this one up?
I just, let's see, if we're going to put together a parlay, since it's the name of the show is Double A Parlays, should we all make one pick together and make it our parlay?
Okay.
All right. I've got Wazoo minus 45 is my leg.
Nate, what do you got?
I'm going to go Boise State minus 14.5.
Okay. Me, I like that Holy Cross line. That's probably the best of the lines that I threw out. Like I said, the other 2 were, but Holy Cross, if it stays at plus 2.5 against a Yale team that hasn't played, yeah, I like that. I like that a lot.
Throw that one in the chat, Colb.
Yep, we'll throw that in the chat. We'll say, here's the parlay. And then, next week we'll let you know how we did, folks. Of course, we'll next week we'll talk about how some of these things worked out, how wrong we were, maybe how right we were, Nate. We hated ourselves for making those bets, and then at the end of the day, we'll walk away with some money in our pockets. So
yeah, look what happens.
Fortune favors the bold. All right, definitely. Guys, we just want to give a shout out one more time to the Fans Nation Network. Really appreciate them for letting us do this on their channel on YouTube. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to their podcast. A lot of good shows in that feed. We had the Rev earlier in the chat. He's doing UAC podcast, plus singing in for Kyler a number of times on the big show on the FCS Fans Nation podcast. So make sure to check out all of the shows that are on the Fans Nation Network. Lots of good content out there. And then, of course, follow them on social media, Twitter, the Facebook group, FCS Fans Nation. It's a great place to be, great place to talk about FCS football. We'll wrap it up like we always do, guys. Even though we've never actually wrapped it up before, we're wrapping it up now. Sorry, that's a Weaver State Weekly line. Yeah, we'll wrap it up like we usually do, but we don't actually have an outline. So appreciate you both. Until next time, bet the best, forget the rest.